Today is October 20th, 2016. This is period 2 AP Psychology. Our psych account name is Point Loma AP Psychology, and it's on YouTube. And so we will upload the lectures every day. So if you miss, like some kids missed yesterday, you can, if you care to, watch it or not. Fast forward the parts that you think are good. Yes?
Is the profile public now? Or?
Yes, I double checked it. You should be able to see it.
And
Would not want you to do. You should subscribe. Yes, everyone should subscribe.
Get extra credit?
Of course. No, it's on video. Extra credit. You subscribe. Okay. There's now. I'm getting a little bit more scrutiny, but that's okay.
I'm the second subscriber.
Okay, so let's talk about. Let's see. Did we hit all the things that we talked about in here? So let's just briefly give me one idea that you wrote about, Micah.
I wrote about the general adaptive syndrome and how it has 3 stages.
Excellent.
And the first being a sympathetic response.
Alarm reaction, right. So it's GAS. Good. How about Aveen?
Diathesis stress model argues that some people are predisposed to psychological disorders.
And you got to connect it to stress.
They're more like stress.
Okay, let's be clear. Diathesis stress. Go ahead, Caleb.
You're predisposed to certain disorders, and with stress, they're manifested.
They come out with the stress. Maybe in a normal functioning, they're not manifest, but you're under extreme stress, boom, you have it. You could have that tendency. That's called a diathesis stress. Very important. Lawayne?
I read about predictability and how when you anticipate and you prepare for stressful situations, it reduces the stress.
Excellent. Perfect. Josie?
Catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Overthinking issues to make them like much worse than they are.
Yes, our own perception. If we're stuck in that spiral, you think it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. And it's not the end of the world. It's probably bad, but it's not the end of the world. Yeah.
Stress mediators and how there's certain things that can make stress harder to deal with or easier to deal with.
Right. There's different strategies or approaches, coping mechanisms, etc. Very good. So this is what I got. We talked about Hans Selye, the GAS, the diathesis stress mediators, and Lazarus is one of those stress mediator researchers. The cognitive appraisal, saying how we interpret the stressor can reduce or exacerbate the stress response. Very, very important. We'll see this also with motivation and emotion, etc. Eustress, we talked about, is a type of stress that activates you and energizes you. You're in a class that you really like and you really want to do well on the test, and it's not a burden or it's not a hardship to study, is it? You're like, bam, I want to do this. I can do it. Predictability, again, and control. If you have some sense of control, it reduces the negative effects of the stress. Another example of control, that people with chronic pain, we'll come back to this in sensation and perception. People who have had surgery, etc., they give them their drug button, and they can push the button and they get the pain reliever. Most of the time, you're not getting any more, but they think they're getting more, and they think that it's somewhat controlled. Some people resist. They said, I want to handle it. I don't want to be a drug addict, so they barely use it, and it alleviates some of the stress or pain symptoms. So we'll see that again, and again, all these are methods. Today, we are going to hopefully get through all of this. We ended on personality and stress, so we're going to talk about type A and type B types of personalities. Dispositional optimism is a really personality connection, really important. Definitely would like to send that message. We're going to look at gender responses to stress, we're gonna look at coping, adaptive coping, problem-focused coping, emotion-focused coping, social support, exercise, meditation, cognitive therapy, and relaxation. All these are gonna be ways to alleviate the negative aspects of stress. Yes?
Do you think like the way we phrase has a huge impact on how we take stress, like as our adult lives?
Good question. Yes. According to the approaches, depends on what approach you believe. So you're talking nature, nurture, which is going to relate to personality. You're talking the behaviorists. Behaviorists would say everything is learned. You have the Freudians, the psychodynamic, who will say it's subconscious conflicts. You'll have the, who am I missing? Sorry? The humanists are going to say it's positive self-concept, and that's probably connected to behaviorists and to Freud. So yeah, it depends on your approach. It's I personally think, or the eclectic approach is it's everything, right? It's a mix, and that's the best way I think you should think about it. It's a mix of different experiences that create your personality. It's a mix of experiences that create how you learn to respond to things, etc. So, yeah.
So do you think like parents can learn how to like teach like younger children as they grow up to like cope better with stress?
Of course. This is one of the big, this is one of the big things that we're trying to get you to see, that, and we're going to reinforce that the rest of the course. I'm working on the next unit, not the next one, but the next one after that, is on developmental psych. So it's all these messages, all this knowledge should inform you as a parent, and for self-assessment and self-evaluations and self-help kind of thing. So for sure, before you, excuse me, if you're having kids, you want to do the best job you can, don't you?
Hopefully.
Most people want to do that. They want to do the best job. And when we get to development, we'll see parenting styles. But the more information you know about what makes a healthy developmental baby and child, the more it's going to help you be a better parent. We'll talk about it, but most people are parenting the way their parents were parenting. You get cycles of abuse in that sense. You know, low education, and I only know what I've been exposed to. You will be very much like the parents that you have, unless you have some other experience, unless you get more education, etc. So, it's a huge responsibility. And when I speaking personally, I did not know enough when I had kids. And I learned a lot more, and I became a better parent. I'm a much better parent I am now than I was when I was younger. I was like 28 when I had our first kid. And I made tons of mistakes, but I learned a ton doing this kind of work. Anyhow, so that's what we're going to try to work on today. So I think we stopped here. Personality types.
Yeah.
So is that working? The visuals are good? One personality type, they call it a disease-prone personality. People with chronic depression, low exercise, poor diet, problematic sleep. They're anxious or hostile, frequently ill. Those people are going to be, these are personality characteristics or traits. They're going to have more tendency towards the negative effects of stress. You have healthy promoting behaviors are exercise. So we call it disease resistant is the other term. People who exercise regularly, do not drink excessively, no tobacco, not overeating. Those would be kind of where you would want to go, and definitely for your kids, you'd want them to go. Now, it's easy to say this, but that would kind of be a goal to strive for. questions on that? We see there's a connection between these two kind of disease-prone and disease-resistant can fit into this typical traditional type A and type B personalities. This is very fun and interesting. Now again, the theory behind personality is that you have behavioral tendencies in most situations. Think in terms of traits or characteristics, okay? In the type A personality, in most instances, is hard driving, ambitious, kind of emotionally reactive, highly competitive, achievement oriented, things are urgent, there's tendency towards anger, verbal aggression, hostility, very rigid in attitudes, toxic negative emotions. You don't want to have a boss like that. Right? These people are also prone to heart disease because of the tension, stress, and worrying attitude, the constant activation. Type A. Now, I can manifest a lot of these sometimes. Okay? Now, but am I type A personality? I would say no. In certain contexts, I am. In my teaching, okay, I'll tick off some of these. Sometimes I'm really that way. I used to be ambitious. I'm significantly reactive. I'm competitive, not so highly competitive. I like to be good at what I do. I don't give up. I like to win. Sometimes I'm in a hurry. Sometimes I get angry, but not often. Sometimes I'm aggressive. Sometimes I'm hostile. Sometimes I'm rigid. Sometimes, okay. But here's the thing. What makes your personality, once we get to personality, it's most often, most situations do you respond this way? And I would say, no. Most situations, in school, it's my profession, it's my vocation. This is what I do. This is my life, pretty much. So I have to have control, and it's really a good way to get a lot of things done. And I admit that. I am type A in school in many examples. Okay? But normally, when I'm at home, I'm much more pleasant and much more chill because I don't have to do anything. It's my life. I'm not responsible for anything except myself. Here, I'm responsible for your education. I'm responsible to make sure you can pass and that you have a learning experience. I don't necessarily care if it's a fun learning experience because it's what it is. We do the job. I want to make it decent for you, but I have a responsibility that I have to get done. And so maybe I do have some tendencies. But most of the time, I think I'm this way. I resist stress pretty well. I'm committed. See, now this is a different interpretation. These are more negative aspects. I see myself a lot like this. I want to control things. I see life as a series of challenges. So maybe this is too narrow for me. But you understand the type of person. These people have problems with stress. They have smoking and drinking and heart attacks, high blood pressure. These are like, different types of management styles. I think I identify more here than a lot of that. Do you see the difference? Yeah? We cool. You know what type A means? Do you know anybody who's type A? Another term for type A people that sometimes you see is anal retentive or compulsive. Oh, I don't know if he's compulsive. Maybe he is. I'm not sure. But some people are kind of obsessive compulsive about neatness and things. They always associate with type A. Mr. Richard is type A. In school and out of school. He straightens his desk every day, every paper is off the floor. You know, clearly, look at this place. I am not compulsive about that kind of thing.
Time urgent, he's not time urgent.
No, he's definitely not
He
time.
will never be time urgent.
Well, it's a mix, isn't it?
It's a mixed bag.
So maybe you can't, maybe you can't just use these labels and be totally accurate all the time. But he has some of these tendencies for compulsive cleanliness, etc. Anyway, type B personality tend to be productive under stress. I kind of like that. I'm productive under stress. I like to have deadlines, but I'm relaxed sometimes. Do not get irritated. Okay, that's not me. They are less competitive, and they're no. They rarely tend to be aggressive. It's a mix, isn't it? People belong to type B personality are also very much tolerant, flexible. Kind of me, you know, in order to adapt to situations or changes. No, I'm not. These people do not get hyper if their time is wasted. Maybe Richard's more B. Relaxation, enjoyment, fun comes very natural. Now that's outside of school. I do that a lot. Don't shop. I hate to shop. I like to have a good time. They're very calm as compared to their highly strung counterparts. People of type A personality often wish they were working rather than spending their time in leisure. Okay, I'm guilty of some of that. People of B personality type tend to plan things in advance before. I do a lot of that.
Are these like extremes of personality?
Yeah, it's a mix, but it's very common in our cultural references to say, or popular references to say, oh, you're very type A, or you're type B. Yeah, you let things go versus you're kind of hard driving. I gotta have it done. It's a mix. It depends on the situation and to determine whether or not you fit into more than one category, more of A or more of B. It's the definition or the connection is what behaviors are manifest most situations. In extreme situations, again, this is my focus. I have those tendencies. But in other situations, I'm like, I'm having this house bill. I didn't look at the plan so closely, you know. I was like, I just need it done. Just get it done, fix it, you know. He says, well, what kind of windows do you want? I don't know. Windows that open and close and that can wash, that showed my view, you know. So I don't really have that pay attention to detail kind of thing. And that's kind of type B, isn't it? Versus, you know, really obsessive type A. So it depends on the situation, and again, that's personality traits. Any questions on type B? Type B are more health prone, right? That's a big idea. Type B are more health, what are the terms we use?
Healthy promoting, health promoting.
Disease prone and
Health promoting.
health promoting, yeah.
What about the Myers-Briggs personality?
We're gonna do that later. Again, all of these, we're gonna get down to it probably second semester. Personality tests, all they do is describe the personality usually. I have a really good book that I wanna share with you that basically analyzes the personality categories and causation. This one is different. It tells you why and how they manifest and why. But mostly, like the Myers-Briggs just tells you what describes you. This is your tendencies. More personality. Personality characteristics can reduce or exacerbate stress, can be mediated by cognitive style. We already talked about that. That's dispositional
Miss Prime.
Optimism.
optimism. disease resistant. And this is kind of where, can you think your way through to a more optimistic outlook? That's the big key here. And this is humanistic approach, and it's one of the most important things I've learned. You can train yourself, recondition yourself to think optimistically. I've done it, I've learned to do it, and it's really helpful. So again, if you have this tendency for negative thought, really give this a try. See them as challenges, positive outlook, things will turn out okay. Use problem-focused coping, which we're going to get to in a minute. Think of things as temporary. And to get out of that I'm getting nervous because of the video, but get out of the catastrophic thinking. Things are not catastrophic all the time. Some things are really bad. Don't blame yourself for a lot of it, especially, that's not a good idea. Maintain your sociability, optimistic outlook. If you do this, this is the kind of the end game. People who have this are healthier, they heal faster, they live longer, they have fewer health consequences according to the research. So this would be try to maintain an optimism. I think it's very, very good strategy. And no, things are temporary. You're gonna have a long, long life. And you can't just be focused on one issue in your life at this time. You gotta put it in perspective. You gotta step back and say, okay, what's this really about? Analyze it, work on it if you have a major problem, fix it if you can, or deal with it emotionally. And you're gonna have tons of problems your whole life. I know that probably sounds bad, but you are going to have continual problems. You're going to have problems with boyfriends and girlfriends. You're going to have problems with family. You're going to have problems with work. You're going to have problems with bosses. You're going to have problems with money. You're going to have problems. How you learn to deal with it is really important. Does it ruin your life to have a problem, or you just process and say, okay, got to deal with it. Let's move on. The cognitive appraisal helps you do this. This is congruent with your cognitive appraisal. People who are pessimistic are more disease prone. They ignore the stressors instead of dealing with them and processing them. They think of them in catastrophizing ways. You are more emotional response. Pessimistic thinking. This is not where you want to be. You want to try to get over here. When you feel yourself going this way, go this way. Any questions on this before we move on? Yeah.
When it says on the optimism side, they heal faster, they mean like heal
Yes.
faster mentally or like
Physically.
Oh, okay.
There's, because of the sympathetic responses, it kills your immune system and your antibodies and all that stuff. We'll get to that in a minute.
Is it possible to be type A and be optimistic, or to be type B and pessimistic?
I think our mix, it's the mix, right? So it's hard to put, you're totally this way. My sense is you probably could be both, but
Does like optimism and pessimism become like a correlation between like your self-esteem?
for sure. If you have low self-esteem, you're going to be blaming yourself. You're more in this area. Negative thinking. Yeah. That's what we grow up, and how our parents treat us really impacts our self-concept. And then we get in patterns of thinking that can be this way. If you are more encouraged and you kind of create this outlook that, yeah, things will be okay, you have good people modeling that example, you're going to start developing those characteristics. man, my family was really negative, so I grew up in a very negative aspect. But I'm learning this. And Mr. Richard, he's a great model for this. Just he's always gonna, it will be fine, it will be fine. You know, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years working next door to him, it's kind of rubbed off on me. It's okay, yeah, it'll be okay, it'll be all right. And it is. It's a long, long life. You're gonna have bumps in the road. It will be fine. Huh?
You said that's so sweet.
It is.
Richard made your life better.
Some people don't have that. I don't know if you've known people who kind of have negative outlook, have kind of different upbringing. Some people don't get that positive reinforcement and positive attitude, and they are really negative thinking. I definitely was negative thinking, and I'm much more positive. Edith, Edith, hi. Edith is one of the most happy, nice people I've ever met, and she has a problem. She had an issue, and she'll oh, it's sad, and then she'll get over it. Resiliency, that's another big thing. Being resilient, saying, oh, okay, I'm gonna have problems, but then we'll get over it. We'll get through it. And she doesn't stay mad, you know. I've never seen her mad. Okay, better watch what I say now. Okay. Gender responses. Now again, this is not my ideas. This is from the textbook.
Triggered.
Triggers are real. You know what? Hey, triggers are real.
I was saying trigger warning.
Trigger warnings are real. Triggers are real. People have, we know this from PTSD. We know it from people with really emotional responses. You know, and again, how do you prepare for that? You anticipate, okay, this is something that you may have a reaction. But you can't always be warned. You have to figure a way to deal with it, don't you? You have to be resilient and say, okay, I know this about myself. I need to be prepared when these kind of issues come up. Males tend to respond to anger with anger. They avoid stressors instead of dealing with them. They have physiological responses are more intense for men. Their heart rate, etc., blood pressure is higher. Lots of sympathetic nervous system. Now, here's the theory behind it. Oxytocin interacts with the sex hormone. So people with more testosterone deal with it in more aggressive ways. Does that make sense? At least that's what the text talks about. They have more intense emotional and behavioral responses to stress. Why? Because the mix of oxytocin and the sex hormone testosterone probably create that. Female responses are more helping others, making use of social support, getting help. Tend and befriend is the quote. Again, oxytocin interacting with sex hormones is a reducer for stress. Women may live longer 5 years. Anybody have an issue with this? Anybody know why? What's the origin of this?
Does it have to do with like motherly instincts of like nurturing someone who's like not?
Probably. So that nurturing instincts. What is the background of that concept?
Kind of like if you're a mother, something you would.
Instincts.
Instincts, I guess, to just help someone in need.
What's the origin for that idea?
Something natural.
Natural instincts. What do you always think of? Darwin, right? Evolution. When you talk in terms of instincts, you should always connect evolutionary. So your question is it an evolutionary element to here? Probably. People with those tendencies were able to nurture and reproduce. That would be an evolutionary explanation. Physiological would say, does estrogen provide nurturing? Oxytocin for sure. Mixing with, I guess, with estrogen would create that nurturing idea. Does that make sense? That's my sense of it. But there's another one I'm thinking for this, beyond the physiological, beyond the evolutionary. You don't remember? Social construct. It's a basically conditioning. Social conditioning, or what do we call it, where your role models say this is the roles that you're supposed to play, social roles. Gender roles. Reinforces this one. Okay.
I would say gender roles also reinforce.
This one? Probably. How do you see, dad when he hits his thumb with the hammer? The little kid sitting in the little car playing Army Man or whatever. Behavioral response. Okay, you got this? Gender issues? Yeah.
Like speaking from an evolutionary perspective, could it be because like if a baby's crying and it's kind of like an instinct to stop it and that's like a stressor kind of, would that be a reason why a woman would want to like a female would like be more nurturing under stress? Do you think?
So a woman would react to a baby
Like-
crying?
Well, like, yeah, more helpful, like, versus getting angry.
More understanding.
Yeah.
When you think in terms of evolution, you think in terms of traits that are passed on. So I don't see how that would fit.
Well, like, if every single time a baby cried, someone got mad and didn't want to do anything about it.
Well, what my sense is, if it was an evolution explanation for that, it would be something to the effect of there is a chemical reaction to the stimulus of hearing a baby cry that is passed on through generations. So women who responded in a nurturing way to baby crying and their offspring maintains that, then that trait would be passed on. That's how the evolution would work, I think. So, I don't know.
So Matthew,
Yeah.
is this new PowerPoint going to be uploaded?
It is.
Okay.
It's already there. It's called New 2016 on the website.
I clicked on that one and it's missing like majority of the slides we've gone over.
Okay, it says 2016 on it?
So I'm
Or it says new? There's two. I should delete the new one. It says 2016. Because I just did it this weekend. Okay, adaptive coping. Everyone know what the term adaptive means?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
So adapt.
Adjust, okay. Very specific definition though. Anybody else who hasn't spoken today? Yeah.
Like change to the environment that you're in?
Yes, adapting, changing to fit, to be successful and survive in the environment. So when you think of adaptive, you want to think of positive coping mechanisms. We call them problem-focused. Well, here, we'll just give you a list. So all of these we would say are adaptive. We're going to go through these. But what makes them adaptive? That they help you survive in that environment. And the opposite is maladaptive, and which is detrimental, and drugs, but detrimental to your survival in your environment. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So these are ones where we recommend how to process and deal with stress, like strategies. The first is basic. What is problem-focused coping? Coping means to basically deal with process your emotions. You need to manage or alter the distressing situation. So again, there's two types of this type of coping. One is based on the problem, the other is based on the emotion. This says you can manage the problem. You confront the problem, you get social support maybe, you plan a problem-solving strategy. This one is probably easier than the emotion one. So, give me an example of a problem-focused coping. What would you do if you had a problem Let's get someone who hasn't spoken. Cassia or Amy or Kaylee or Nadia. Okay, go ahead, Colin.
From what I gather, like if problem focused coping is like if you're extremely stressed because you have like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Problem focused coping would be like making like a schedule and keep to it, and then delegating time to so that you can get the most work done that you possibly can.
Excellent, perfect. You have all this homework. You all have this experience. You will have this experience in college. I have too much to do. I'm overwhelmed. You start making lists. Okay, I got to do this, this. You prioritize it. You make a plan for dealing with the problem. Something that you have some control over. Okay, is your problem focused? You fix it. You get a flat tire. It's stressful. Fix the tire. Your stress is reduced. Get it? And you can, again, this is cognitive also. I know I'm going to take care of this. It's just a problem I have to overcome. I can do it. Okay. The other one, which is much harder, there is no control of the situation. My parents were diagnosed with cancer, and there's nothing I could do about it. They're going to die from it. How do you deal with it? I have to deal with my emotions. I can't be distraught over it, etc. I have to support them, be nurturing to them, be stable for them and my family or my kids, etc. So you have to manage your emotions. You have to manage your emotions. That's hard. How can you do it? You cognitive appraisal, you distance yourself, express your feelings. This is a big one. You get it out. If you don't have someone to talk to, you journal it. Take responsibility. Sometimes people use humor. This would be like a defense mechanism, which we're going to talk about. You search for positive elements of a negative thing. It's all processing emotionally. Sometimes religion works. Sometimes people, who are religious say, well, it's God's will. It's a way of coping, isn't it? It's a way of adjusting. Sometimes people just forget it. I'm going to go to Disneyland. Self-medicating is another big one. Changing their mood with an artificial substance or a chemical substance. Maybe sometimes that's better than being totally depressed. You think many people do this and they don't know that they're doing it. Did you know that? Many people self-medicate without knowing they're self-medicating. Do you know how that would work? Do you understand how that works? Sorry? Yeah. So they drink when they go home instead of, dealing with their emotions. They have a drink to change their feeling. Right? Self-medicating. But that's still, I'm drinking to relieve the emotional pain or stress. Okay? It's not ideal, but that's a form of emotional coping. The number one thing that I would suggest is the cognitive appraisal. Is you recognize this is a problem I cannot solve, and I must get through this. How can I do it? I have to process it. It's hard. You got to step out of yourself. Say, okay, this is the way it is. How do I deal with it? You get social support, which we're going to come to next, is very helpful. So do you know what the emotion-focused coping is compared to problem-focused? Yeah? Okay. Social support is one of the best coping mechanisms. You basically can help mediate your stress, venting with somebody about what issues you're having. That's going to help you deal with it emotionally for sure. Sometimes it'll help you make a plan for if you're doing problem-focused coping. You have physiological responses When you have a good social support, you feel better. Your network of friends is your social support network. Support groups, these are people who, you know, deal with addictions, etc., go to support groups. They're not designed to give you, you know, answers. They're designed to give you a place to express your feelings and identify with other people and have interactions and connections. It can be problem focused or emotion focused. Definitely. Do you think it's harder to deal with problems and stress, etc., alone or with people? Being isolated is not a good way to deal with anything. And don't be isolated. And then they talk about the different variables to social support. Remember, what is good social support compared to bad social support, right? No social support is bad. Some social support can be bad, okay? So what are some of those qualities? Inadequate. I don't have enough people around. I'm isolated. Problematic. I don't recognize what I do have, or sometimes it's a hindrance. Sometimes it's a hindrance. Like you get bad social support. You get someone telling you the wrong things. Or you get oppressive social support. You know, hovering, I need to help you, you know. I'm really not accused of over social support. I'm not good at that. I try to be somewhat supportive. Support can be annoying, disruptive, or interfering, thus increasing your stress. When the social support creates more stress, you're like, ah. Any questions on the qualitative aspects? Okay, clear? So the goal is that you know all this, all right? Remember, it's in the reading. I'm going over it with you. I know it's not the best way, but it's a lot of information, but I'm expecting you to know it, okay? Anything we want with this? Maladaptive coping. You can guess what this is. We probably can skip this. Maladaptive coping. Things that don't help you adjust or adapt. Any ideas?
Drugs.
Your favorite one is drugs. Okay, what else? Alcohol. Which is more prevalent, drugs or alcohol? Alcohol. Alcohol is the number one drug for self-medicating and coping, etc. Increase the risk of death and disease. Ah, that's it. The definition of coping mechanisms that are problematic. If you're a chronic drinker, that's going to weaken your immune system. It's going to weaken your body, etc. Risky behavior. Sensations. Oh, some people go out and have these experiences to get away from their stress. Jumping out of an airplane. Bungee jumping. Driving your car fast. Other sensation-seeking things. High blood pressure. The results are cigarette smoking, drug and alcohol abuse. Some people overeat. Unsafe sex. Unsafe sex is a form of sensation-seeking. Toxic substances, huffing paint. Some people become aggressive. They want to beat someone up. 45% of all deaths are due to unhealthy behavior, tobacco drinking, drug use, and lack of exercise. Look, you get the idea? Do you ever think about this sensation seeking as being a manifestation of your stress or your desire to change things and get away? Need attention, low self-esteem, you need attention, you get out there. Cool. Got it? Brenton, how are you doing today? Good, okay. Oh, these are old statistics. What, do you think they're true? 42% responded with physical fighting. Yeah, that's probably old. I don't know, maybe it's different demographics. Yeah. Mary Jane, that one's probably low.
That's very,
Can we turn that off?